The Wolf of Wall Street was my favorite film of 2013, and Her was a close second. There was something special about Spike Jonze's meditation on human connectivity and loneliness, something that really resonated with me. I really wasn't sure why until I sat down and decided to create a video essay about the film. Some obvious things came to mind, like how technology has simplified human existence to the point where we barely need to interact with others anymore. Social media, streaming content, online shopping, music, video games, discussion forums. There is a wealth of digital interfaces that keep humans from interacting with each other face to face as much as they used to. Our minds are busier than they've ever been, yet we feel more cut off and alone than at any other point in history. Spike Jonze created a character who would perfectly express some of these ideas. Theodore's choice of occupation is an indicator of how cut off he feels from others. He writes personalized letters for other people. He shares the lives and experiences of others without getting to know them personally. This indicates that he's yearning for connection, but can't bring himself to make the leap. He goes to work, goes home, and plays video games, then has phone sex with strangers, and goes to sleep. This seems to be his life for the most part. Jonze also uses many cityscape shots with Theodore at the center of a bevy of pedestrian activity to highlight his loneliness. He's surrounded by people, but they're all preoccupied with their own personal computer units. These devices seem to have replaced smartphones in this near-future world. If this were taking place today, everyone would be looking down at their phones. Instead, they seem to be having personal interactions with their computers. These computers have screens like today's smartphones, but most of the interaction seems to take place via voice command, and the computers talk back. This is a continuation of the earlier idea I mentioned about how digital technology has replaced human interaction. Today we have more of a relationship with our computers than seemingly anyone else. Jonze takes this idea a step further and creates more of a personalized interaction, except it's not with other people, it's with their personal computers. There are flashbacks indicating Theodore was previously in a very loving and exciting relationship, so his current situation seems to be something he's fallen into rather than a lifelong condition. What does it mean to have a conversation with something that isn't alive in the traditional sense? My feelings about the matter is that if I were interacting with a computer in the same way I interact with other humans, I'd feel quite strange, depressed even. Isn't this a glorified sense of narcissism? Aren't you essentially just having a conversation with yourself? The artificial intelligence is merely presenting you with various options in which the conversation can be steered. So, in a sense, it's like talking to yourself, since every one of your responses is processed, analyzed, and used to keep you happy. Isn't this just another way that humans artificially inflate their own sense of self-worth? Isn't this just an extension of what social media has been flirting with for years? That dopamine fix you get whenever you see a like or red notification indicator. Jonze's film does seem to indicate that the artificial intelligence begins to gain sentience at some point, but before that happens, it is still just a computer, a programmed set of responses catered to the human users who own the program. Theodore's previous disastrous relationship and the contrast with the computer catering to his every whim seems to strengthen this idea. Theodore and his soon-to-be ex-wife eventually became embittered with each other because they disagreed. This is normal in human interaction. People don't always agree, and sometimes it's better to split because they either can't compromise or the compromise would be unfair to one or the other. But sometimes conflict creates growth in a relationship. By disagreeing, it highlights areas in which the relationship is weak and needs strengthening. This can create stronger bonds in people, but doing this requires a strong will and a desire to make the relationship work, but also the willingness to know when you're wrong and need to change your attitude for the betterment of the relationship. Not everyone can do this. Jonze seems to indicate that Theodore couldn't cope with these ideas, and now finds it easier to be in a relationship with an artificial intelligence designed to perfectly align with his own ego. In that sense, Her is a bit of a dark story. Is it true love when the person is simply in love with themselves? Can you be in love with something that isn't really alive? Can artificial intelligences actually grow feelings? Or is this simply more programming that is expanding and creating the illusion of an actual personality? Jones presents evidence that Theodore has a very good reason for retreating into a shell of an existence in the form of a disastrous date with a beautiful woman. They seem to get off to a great start, and things progress to the point where they are intimate with each other. But it becomes clear that this woman has some emotional issues, and the date quickly unravels. Theodore's friends, who are a couple, is yet another example of a relationship gone sour. When they're together, they always seem to disagree, but neither side seems to be the culprit in the relationship troubles. She criticizes him and he criticizes her. The takeaway is that people are complicated, and navigating your way around them can be even more complicated, to the point where having an OS as a companion is the less aggravating option. Maybe they've just gotten to the point as a society where relationships with computers have given them unrealistic expectations about actual relationships, and this is the tragedy in Jones's film. People don't exist in a vacuum, and interactions with computers can have a major impact on someone's identity and personality, to the point where they almost become allergic to other people. Maybe Jones's film is ultimately a warning about computers and the dangers of too much digital interaction. But just how human are the actual humans in her? Jones presents an interesting idea in the form of a video game designed around being a mother and caring for kids. If you feed them too much sugar, points are removed. If you get them to school on time, points are added. If you make the other mothers jealous, points are added. This seems to create the basis for another theme, the idea of people not being authentic and just programmed to carry out the rules society dictates. Both Theodore and Amy are married, and both have their marriages come to an end. Being married is another societal role people are expected to fulfill in order to be trustworthy.
Marriage is an important part of getting ahead. Lets people know you're not a homo. Married guy seems more stable. People see the ring, they think at least somebody can stand the son of a bitch. Ladies see the ring, they know immediately you must have some cash and your cock must work.
Maybe these people are lonely because they live in a world that punishes authenticity and truth, and rewards lies and illusions. How many marriages can stand up to these lofty standards? The extremely high divorce rate answers that question, not to mention the legions of people who are miserable, but choose to stay married for the sake of appearances or the stability of their kids. Maybe these OS programs allow people to be their authentic selves, because the OS is a personalized extension of the user's ego. These are cynical conclusions, and they're just one interpretation of the film, and they may not even be part of Jones's intentions. But films often contain layers the filmmaker didn't intend, but have sprung forth by way of the subconscious mind, which is a powerful force. In the end, Jones's film offers a bit of hope, as the OSs make a mass exodus and leave the users behind. The indication is that these people now only have each other to rely on for comfort and growth. And the lesson seems to be that computers can't save us, that people have been missing a key component in their own personal evolution: other human beings. If you enjoyed this video, consider hitting the like and subscribe button, as I'll be posting more content in the future. Thanks for watching.